there's been some discussion that Elon Musk could create a holding company, X.com, that incorporates all his companies, so Neuralink, Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company. I want to talk about this. I'm not for it. I'm against it. I want to share my thoughts. It's not a bad idea, but I just think it's not something I would want to happen. And here are some of the reasons and the pros and cons. This is Not Even Wrong podcast. It's December 24th, 2020. This is Krim Delco. For the day, the fund is up 6%. The market's up 40 basis points. For the year, the fund is up 412%, 412.5%, and the market's up 14%. We're outperforming by 398.5%. If you put $100 into Orange Capital Partners on December 1st, 2020, you would have $512.5. The same thing, the S&P 500 would have yielded you $114. So the conversation started on Twitter. It's nothing big. Dave Lee, one of the YouTubers, suggested an X company, a holding company that incorporates all Elon Musk companies. And then Musk replied, good idea. And that created a whole buzz of discussion. I think it's an interesting discussion. It gives you some insight into the theory of finance, into the theory of financial markets, what actually is the purpose of financial markets. And it also gives you some of the pros and cons of being public. So let's talk about this. First, let's set the stage. So we have Elon Musk has 4 companies that he is a large owner of, and I believe CEO of all of them. One is Tesla, one is SpaceX, one is Neuralink, and one is the Boring Company. Tesla is in the business of decarbonizing energy. SpaceX is in the business of creating space flight. The Boring Company's business is to make transportation on Earth a lot easier through building tunnels. And Neuralink is in the business of connecting the human brain with computers. All of these businesses, in my view, are very interesting businesses. They're technology-driven businesses. Some of them have disruptive technologies, such as Tesla and SpaceX, in a sense that new concepts and engineering practices are being applied to have very large impact on the markets and the world. They're lowering price, increasing quality. Neuralink is a little bit more of a tech company a la CRISPR, in a sense that it's really trying to solve some fundamental medical, technological, neurological problems that some of them have disruptive power, but I think they have much more of a new concept power than even disruptive power. So it's a little bit more high tech. They're a bit like quantum computing. If it works, it's amazing, but there's a lot of technology risk involved. And I think the Boring Company is the opposite. It's very low tech, but solving massive, massive problems. In my view, maybe one of, if not the most interesting company. If I could invest in that company, I would definitely invest. And this is already the segue into what is actually the upside of this. Why do we want a holding company? Well, first and foremost, we could get exposure to all these companies. The advantage of a holding company such as X would be that instead of me having to invest through private markets in all these stocks, I can just invest in X and get full exposure, assuming they're all part of it 100%. So each company's cash flows are represented through X. And that is definitely an advantage. So for an investor, and I think Dave Lee comes from that perspective, and that's perfectly fine. Why would I have to bother, let's say, going through private deals with SpaceX? And I've spoken about this with my partner, Zovinar. We would like to invest in SpaceX, but I don't like private markets. I don't like being exposed to brokers, being exposed to private deals, all these things like preferred stocks and things like that. I don't like any of that stuff. I like straightforward shares in the public markets, liquidity, real-time NAVs, those kinds of things. I'm used to that. I don't judge the others. Some people are very successful doing that kind of stuff. I don't like it. I don't like to be dependent on brokers. I don't like to have lunch with somebody so I can invest. I like to open my account and just click and buy and sell whenever I want. So this is what public markets allow me. Nevertheless, I'm against this proposal of X. And before I go into the negatives, I just want to say what I'd like Elon Musk to do, and I've tweeted this as a response to his response that it's a good idea to create a holding company. I said, please don't do it. Keep them companies separate, but take them public as soon as possible. You will increase transparency, reduce the Rube Goldberg drift and also create shareholder value for everybody. This is what I said. Now, what do I mean? First of all, increased transparency. I think having separately listed companies is better for employees, is better for investors, is better for customers, is better for regulators. Everybody has a better view on what's going on. It's more transparent. It's easier to understand. If you read a 10K of a company like Neuralink, or even now, if you just read their presentation slides, you understand what they're doing. If you read a 10K of Boring Company, I am pretty sure it's going to be pretty straightforward how it works. If I read the Tesla 10K, it works fine for me. It's a little bit more complicated. Tesla is a complicated company because Tesla is already a conglomerate of, according to Elon Musk, roughly a dozen startups. However, those startups are have all organically grown within the innovation stack that Tesla is building. So it started with batteries, then the battery management system, the powertrain, then the car, then the charging network, then the enterprise software that Tesla's using, then the solar acquisition, the solar which is powering houses and the car, the charging network, the AI. All these things are related around the innovation stack which started with the foundation of Tesla. The Boring Company has nothing to do with the innovation stack that Tesla is building. SpaceX has nothing to do. Now, they might share some technological problems, for example, some material science questions that could be helpful for SpaceX and Tesla and the Boring Company. You could have some AI, interesting neurological breakthrough with Neuralink that could help on the AI side and help Tesla build the self-driving stack. So all these things are related, and I think they can be still transferred from one company to the other, even if they are separately run and separately listed. They don't have to be under one roof. So my suggestion was bring them public. I like public companies because there is a scrutiny, there is a forced transparency that just nothing else offers. And I think Musk has had some good and bad experiences with public markets. But if we look back over the last roughly 18 years since Tesla exists, Tesla has always been able to raise money whenever necessary to keep going. And the $600 billion market cap today would never have been possible without financial markets, without publicly listed stocks, without the scrutiny of financial markets. Even the shorts have their role. The same way that parasites and cockroaches and things like that in nature, they have their role, so have the shorts. And I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but we need some destructive force that pushes against the positive optimism so we don't go overboard. And I want to talk about the Rube Goldberg drift, which is, Rube Goldberg is, there's a concept called Rube Goldberg machines. Rube Goldberg was a cartoonist, I think, in the 30s, and he created these cartoons where you have, for example, a massive machine, very complicated mechanical thing which helps you eat a soup or something like that. And the point being, a Rube Goldberg machine is a metaphor for something very complicated and technologically very sophisticated, delivering a very simple task which could be also delivered in another way. There's also the joke during the Cold War, the Soviets and the US were fighting in an arms race who can create a pencil or something to write in space when there's no gravity. The US was developing this highly sophisticated pencil, ink pencil that can work even without gravity, and the Soviets, they created the actual pencil that we all know, which is just using graphite and sort of friction to write. So the point here being, you have Rube Goldberg drift in every kind of technological situation. You just have it because humans like complicated stuff. Humans like to be tapped on their shoulder for solving very difficult problems. It's not always like that. I think there are some humans, and Elon Musk is one of them, that are very content with attacking engineering problems with easy solutions because they are driven by a mission. The Tesla's mission is to decarbonize energy, and the way they're achieving it is by delivering convenience, lower price, and cash flow. If you are after convenience and lower price in any kind of situation in life, you have to find easy solutions. So my point being is that I'm a bit afraid of having too much complexity within the organization because I'm a bit afraid of the Rube Goldberg drift. We could see the companies drift away. This is what we're seeing with Google. And there's two arguments about Google. One is because it's a complicated structure, Alphabet is a holding company, they have this. The other argument would be that the culture of Google has always been a kind of an arrogant engineering structure, which works in certain ways. Building a search engine doesn't work in any other way. Google has not been able to create anything else, in my view, which is useful. I just made a podcast, I think a few days ago, about Waymo, and which is a Google company. And even there, you can see the Rube Goldberg drift. There's no clear mission, no clear purpose. There is engineering for the sake of engineering. Why do we need self-driving cars driving around in Phoenix? Okay, fine, they can learn, but what's the ultimate purpose? And the purpose with Tesla's self-driving car technology is actually very easy. You want to make the car more convenient. People buy cars, they drive cars. There are 3 billion cars, okay, I don't know exactly, I think 2 billion cars in the world. There's millions and millions of cars in the US. There's a lot of people driving cars, buying cars, and to make them more convenient, make them more efficient, make them drive with less fuel, if not much less fuel, and use photons and be very efficient, and then you don't have to drive them, you can use AI. These things are really useful. They are driven by a mission, by a purpose. And the Waymo side and many other companies that are dabbling in this AI self-driving space, to me, they look a lot more like Rube Goldberg machines, where they're trying to solve a simple task with very complicated technology, and there's no clear purpose behind it. So to come back to the X company, this is my main concern. You have too much complexity. You can drift away. The mission is not, what would be the mission of X? Dave Lee proposed something like human survival and progress. That to me is a bad problem to solve. Solving the problem of survival is a bad problem. It's like climate change, it's a bad problem. It's not clear what that means, survival. It's not clear how to solve it. What are the metrics to measure success? So I don't like that. And that's already, you can see if you have a company like X, what will be the purpose of X? How can you even formulate a good purpose or solving a good problem? The purpose of Tesla is to decarbonize energy. That is a good problem to solve, because all you have to do is find ways to use less carbon to drive cars and heat homes and air-conditioned homes, etc. That is a good problem. It's a problem that is solvable. SpaceX, they want to introduce interplanetary travel. That is a good problem to solve. It's clear how to measure that. If we can go from planet A to planet B, we have a solution that is maybe delivered by SpaceX, hopefully. So again, I think having an X.com company or something like that, I just don't think there is a clear purpose. There would be a risk of drift away from the mission, waste, less transparency. Then you have the human factor of ego and Rube Goldberg drift. I just think, as a summary, I would be much more interested in having separately listed companies that are all driven by their missions that we already know, the Neuralink mission, the Boring Company mission, the SpaceX mission, and the Tesla mission. I would like them to be public so I can actually participate as an investor and also have the scrutiny and the transparency that comes with such companies. I would like other companies to be added. And just to finish, I guess the question then is, well, when do you have a separate company and when not? Should Tesla be split up, or should SpaceX be split into Starlink and maybe Starship and things like that? Look, it's not a clear demarcation line, but I think a good way to think about this is, what's your mission? What's your purpose? What fits in that purpose? And as soon as things start falling off the cliff, if the purpose is not clear anymore. So if your purpose is to decarbonize energy, and let's say you are the Boring Company, part of Tesla, it's just not clear. Yes, I mean, you could make a point that building tunnels is helping to decarbonize energy, but it's not directly helping. Directly decarbonizing energy means building a system and infrastructure that uses photons to drive cars. You don't need tunnels for that. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there. But if your purpose is to reduce traffic in big cities by 10x and improve quality by 10x, then the Boring Company all of a sudden makes a lot of sense. So I think that could be a good demarcation line to decide what is actually should be within a company and what shouldn't. So I would start with purpose and mission, and then go down to the innovation stack which is being built to deliver that purpose and that mission.